There's one thing in my first aid and repair kits that always makes people scratch their heads, and it's definitely not a bandage. With over 34 years hiking Tasmania's wildest tracks, I've learned what actually works. So let's go through both kits piece by piece so you can see what's essential for those week or more long trips and how to keep it all light and easy. My first aid kit, what earned its place. So if you've ever looked at your pack and thought, why am I carrying this brick of first aid stuff I never use? You're not alone. Back when I was guiding over 500 people on Tasmania's overland track, I did lug around a massive heavy kit, and for good reason. Their safety was my responsibility. These days though, when I'm heading out on big missions with mates, I keep things much simpler. Here's the thing. The trick is to pack first aid for what actually happens out there so you skip the dead weight and don't waste cash on gear you'll never touch. And honestly, it's the same issues every time. Busted skin, nasty blisters, a rolled ankle, cuts, and sometimes snakes. That's what really matters when you're out in the track. So that's all I carry now. No just in case junk, no gimmicks, just what I know I will actually use. Let me break down my kit piece by piece and show you exactly why each thing earns its place so you're not stuck carrying stuff you'll never need. And by the way, if you're not sure if your current setup's actually up for a multi-day hike, I've got a free multi-day hiking readiness quiz, quick, simple, and you'll see exactly where you're solid or where you might want to tighten things up. Links down below. Just to be clear, this is my personal kit. If I'm in a group of 4, everyone's got their own basic blister kit and first aid stuff. We'll swap and share a few key bits, but I'll flag which ones they are. This right here, this is what never leaves my pack, and it comes with me on every big trip. First, we've got wounds and broken blisters. Now, these are the big hitters, the stuff that actually gets used quite a bit. So I carry around 8 island dressings, things like Opsite, a handful of Band-Aids there as well. Just some general regular Band-Aids of different sizes. And then I haven't got any here with me, but I'll just carry a few disposable antiseptic wipes, alcohol or iodine swabs. That just maybe 3 or 4 of those, along with some steri strips here to close up some wounds if I need to. The island dressings are the workhorses for broken blisters, small cuts, anything that needs to be clean and covered. They stick well and they're critical in Tassie weather. Antiseptic wipes, well, just a couple, like I said, clean up before patching up a little cut or a little graze or something like that. Then the steri strips, they'll pull together those neat little cuts that don't need stitches, and they barely weigh a thing. I've got 2 packets of them here, but I might even throw in 2 or 3 for a longer hike. Next, you got blisters and hotspots. People overthink blisters, either nothing or half a pharmacy aisle worth of stuff they take on a walk. But I take a simple blister kit for hotspots. I've got a couple of big blister plasters as well, which will come in as well. I'd normally take 2 to 4 of them. I'll also take a simple blister kit for hotspots. So that's got maybe 5 or 6 blister plasters in there to put when you feel the rubbing to stop anything happening. Then I've also got a couple of bigger blister plasters as well for those bigger hot spots that occur. And I'll also normally have probably a thinner roll than what I've got here, but a thin roll of micropore paper tape for dressings, holding them down, that type of thing. That's been coming with me for 25 plus years, always comes, very useful for all sorts of different things. But probably the real MVP in this little kit of stuff here is Leukoplast tape, this white plasticky slippery tape. I've used this in my kit for well over 25 years, probably 30 years. It's unbeatable for preventing blisters when you get a hot spot and reinforcing dressings, that type of thing. And it stands up to the worst that Tassie throws at you. If you get a blister occurring, you put this straight onto your heel, or not a blister, but a hot spot. You put that straight in the heel, it stops it in its tracks. Used to use this all the time as a guide, and I always carry some of this with me. I've got it lying around all over the place. And here's a bit of a trick with this stuff. Instead of taking the whole roll like that, what I often do is I'll wrap it around my hiking pole. I'll just put a heap of it around my hiking pole, so it's always handy. There's no bulk and works for on-the-fly little repairs and things you need to do as well. So that's a handy way that I often keep it. Next, we've got sprains, support, and serious stuff. Here's where the snake bite kit comes in. So I've got 2 snake bite compression bandages there, and I've also got 2 triangular bandages there. So that's your pretty standard snake bite kit in Australia. These are non-negotiable. Pretty much every snake in Australia is venomous, or you need to assume it is. In Tasmania, they all are anyway. So there's no getting around it here. If you get bitten, you need proper pressure immobilization. And as a side note, in the USA, this isn't the protocol, but it is essential in Australia. different treatment in the States. Now, they're not just for snakes. They're also great for sprains, joint support, or when someone twists an ankle. If you're far from the start of the track and you've got a twisted ankle or a bung knee, you can use these as a strapping bandage as well. And triangular bandages, they're crazy versatile. You can use them for slings, for padding, for wraps, extras, for whatever's gone wrong. They are very useful and they weigh almost nothing and solve a heap of problems. There's a lot you can do with a triangular bandage. And I keep the snake bite kit in this separate stuff sack so it's easy to grab, to hand off, and everyone knows exactly where it is. So those bandages and the triangular bandages normally live in there. And before anyone asks, no, I don't carry a tourniquet. After decades of guiding and plenty of wilderness first aid courses, I've never once seen a bleeding injury on a bushwalk that actually needed one. And honestly, if things ever got that bad, you can improvise a tourniquet with a triangular bandage, some clothing, or even a belt, or any manner of things. So for me, it's just not something I carry, and it's not part of sort of my standard bushwalking first aid kit here in Australia anyway. Next up, we've got meds, hygiene, and backup. So simple bits and pieces here. I keep ibuprofen, paracetamol, loperamide for diarrhea, and that covers most real world issues. I also keep normally a small tube of hand sanitizer, as well as an emergency blanket as well, moon blanket, whatever you call, space blanket, as well as some water purification tablets as well. These are rarely used, but they're good insurance if I need them. And the bonus also, electrolytes. I also keep them, but they are in my food bag. They're not part of my first aid kit. They're just part of staying on top of things, and they're there if I need them. If someone gets diarrhea or something, I've got emergency electrolytes built into my food bag as well. How's it all packed? Well, everything goes into a couple of snap lock bags there, and then there. Basically, that is it. That keeps the gear dry, easy to see at a glance, and it makes it simple to split stuff up. Wounds and blisters in one bag, meds and extra bandages and stuff in the other, or whatever system works for you. Now those snap lock bags live inside this Dyneema Diddy bag, this thing here. Now I've got a few Diddy bags. I've got them everywhere, but I normally take one or two on a walk. Here in Australia, you can get them through Ultralight Gear, and in the US, places like Garage Growing Gear do great versions too. I think this one is maybe Garage Growing Gear, not sure, but we'll leave a link to this full first aid kit list of the stuff I've got in here below. So that all goes in there. That's your first aid components done. Weight of that so far is this much. And the snake bite kit is the odd one out, lives in its own tiny stuff sack here. Separate, easy to grab. And since this is a group item, we normally just pass it around so one person isn't stuck carrying all the shared gear, so we can easily divvy up the shared gear. So that's one that goes on a trip. If there's just one or two of us, it's still coming. If it's just me, it's still coming. But that comes on every single trip as well in that little bag. And that weighs that much. Now, I used to have everything shoved in a big red first aid sack. Looked super official, but it weighed a ton, and honestly, it didn't help me find things any quicker. The snap lock bags plus the Dyneema Diddy bag, lighter, easier, and do the job just as well. And I really like this setup. It's quite nice. And a couple of other must-haves that live with my kit. There's always an emergency whistle, as well as a compass, which I haven't got here. The whistle's tiny, weighs nothing, but it can be a lifesaver if you need to signal for help, and everyone should just carry one of them anyway. And look, there's nothing wrong with carrying a huge first aid kit if you know how to use what's in it. I've helped with enough rescues and injured hikers over the years to know what's actually useful and what's just weight for me. So my kit's small because it's based on what really gets used out there, not what looks impressive on paper. And like I said, proper first aid training teaches you how to improvise as well. And if you're hearing all this and you're thinking, I'm not sure my kit adds up, or I'm not even sure what I'm missing, that free multi-day hiking readiness quiz below is a handy way to gut check your setup for your next big trip. The repair kit. Small, light, and high impact. All right, with that done, let's talk about repairs. So the same logic as the first aid kit, I only carry stuff that's actually likely to get used and would be a massive pain if I couldn't fix it. But first I have basically a sleeping system and shelter repair kit. First up, you've got sleeping pad repairs. So I just take the little patch kit that came with my mat normally. It's tiny, but if your mat goes down, your comfort and warmth are toast. So over the years, I've used plenty of these patch repair kits. That's just what came with my Zen Bivy pad, which is what I'm using currently. So that would come normally just like that. That would go in there. For my tent, I would normally carry a tent pole sleeve, which is in my, forgot to bring it in here for the video, but it's in with my tent gear. I'd normally keep that with the tent pegs. Over the years, we've polished off more than one snap pole, so it is always handy to have something like that. It's not fun trying to repair a tent pole with just Leuco tape. I also take a few tent repair patches, which I keep occasionally, and also take a short roll of tenacious tape here, which I can just cut to size. Between tent patches and tenacious tape, you can fix small fly tears, floor damage, or even a rip in your jacket if you have to. The Tasmania conditions I'm hiking in are pretty brutal on gear, so a little fixer kit can save a lot of major frustration. I've spent a lot on tenacious tape over the years. I'm always seem to be patching stuff up. It works well. You get it in different colours. I use it all the time. I probably these days prefer the little pre-made size patches as opposed to the tape, but that still does come in handy. And the tenacious tape actually pulls double duty for my clothes, so on down jackets, rain gear, pants, even packs. I've got some on some of my packs. If something tears, you slap a patch on and you're sorted for the trip. Rarely comes off unless it's on your legs or somewhere like that. For longer trips of a week or more, I'll also add a needle and thread, or make sure someone in the group has one. It's not critical for an overnighter, but if a seam goes on day 4, you'll be glad you've got it. Next, we've got cable ties and the mystery item. Well, I always throw in a handful of cable ties. They weigh next to nothing and can put together broken bits of tents, straps, jackets, you name it, packs. They are gold. I always take probably more than 2 of them. I'd normally have 10 of them in a pack prior to a trip. And the mystery item from the intro, well, that's a spare pack buckle. Sounds boring, but bust your hip belt buckle on a long hike and you will be miserable, trust me. A spare takes up no space, it weighs basically nothing, and has saved a trip more than once. So a spare belt buckle, I've got several of these sitting in my kit downstairs just to take on every trip. I take one of them on every trip. In there is very handy. In terms of other tools and notes, well, there's not much needed here. I normally just take a tiny Swiss Army Classic SD, and that covers jobs that I actually face. It's got a blade for opening things. It's got a little pair of scissors for snipping tape. It's got tweezers and a toothpick. Yep, it's got tweezers and a toothpick for the odd splinter or fiddly fix. And that's all I really need. No big blades. 34 years of bushwalking here in Australia, and I can count on one hand the times I've needed a massive knife. Occasionally, I'll take a slightly bigger Swiss Army knife, but rarely. And like I said, we're in a group. Normally, one of us carries something slightly bigger as well. Now, one last essential is a small waterproof Field Notes notebook and a 2-tip Sharpie with fine and like a thicker pen on there. And that's perfect for notes about injuries or repairs or sketches or just track notes that I'm recording. Or if you ever want to leave a message, waterproof, great, weighs nothing, and comes on every trip as well in that bag. And it's not strictly first aid or repair, but trust me, I find them pretty useful when I'm out there. Very handy little thing to have. And I also may throw in sometimes a bit of shock cord as well. I'd take a length off of this and take some shock cord just for any other sort of repairs I might need to do as well. The only other thing that I might have that's not in here is some spare cord that normally lives in another bag in my pack, and that's just some spare guy line that we can use for shoelaces, for tying stuff up, that type of thing as well. That lives in a separate bit. That's it. All lives in this same dynamic ditty bag as the first aid kit, sorted in its own little sections. It's light, it's simple, and it actually does what you need it to do out there. Now, one extra thing, I try to keep my first aid qualifications up to date as well. Over the years, I've done wilderness first aid and remote area first aid courses, as well as standard general first aid on a regular basis. Probably the single most important part is keeping those skills fresh. And if you can find the time, a proper wilderness first aid course makes a huge difference. It gives you the confidence to handle real problems out there, not just the theory, and teaches you how to improvise as well. Tailoring it to you. Now, this kit works for me, but it might not be a perfect fit for everyone. You'll want to tweak it for your own trips. Think about your environment, your group size, trip length, and how comfortable you are with risk and sorting things out yourself. Going longer, say 10 or 12 days, then I just up the consumables. Maybe a few more dressings, a bit of extra tape, maybe a little bit more repair stuff and some more tablets. You burn through more in Tassie, especially when the weather's doing its thing. But as a grab and go kit for up to around 9 days, this setup has been solid. I know where everything is, how to use it, and for me, there really isn't much missing. And like I said, normally I'm hiking with at least one mate, often with a group of 4, and we each carry our own little version of this kit, so if someone gets hammered with blisters, there's always enough to help them out. But if I was solo, honestly, this would still have me covered. Maybe I'd toss in an extra bit or 2. I get the solo appeal, but I'm all about groups. Safer, and you can spread the load. And prepping for injuries and gear failures is only half the equation. equation. The other half, that's making sure your body's up for the mission, so you stay out of trouble in the first place. And if you want to see exactly how I train for the big Tassie hikes, then check out this video next. It'll walk you through my full training preparation and hopefully set you up for your own adventures. See you on the next one.